Yeah, day 5 today, coming off of a off day. I thought the energy was good. We're still installing a bunch of stuff. It's not as clean as you'd like for it to be at times, but the effort's there, and the intensity's there. I saw a lot of guys, playing hard and trying to be physical, and so liked our mentality, liked our effort. Like I said, a lot of stuff we got to get cleaned up, and new install. We started working situational stuff today. It's going to be a big emphasis for us, really, for the next couple of weeks. About 2 weeks of heavy emphasis on special situations, and then a little bit of game planning for Colorado. In the middle of the following week. So anyway, good. Good practice today. As I said, it was hot out there. We got to continue to to learn to focus when we get a little tired, when we get hot. And so it's good to have that heat and to work through it, and to practice and fight through it.
Have you been satisfied with the health of the team through the first 5 practices?
Yeah. I think we've stayed really healthy so far. For the most part. Thomas Armstrong got a little banged up. We'll have a little bit better sense of where he is, probably tomorrow or the next day. But beyond that, I think we've stayed healthy. Our guys, we haven't had any kind of soft tissue injuries or any of that kind of stuff. And, some of the guys that were coming off of injuries, we're trying to bring them along intentionally, slowly, and I think it's paid off. I think they're having a chance to practice and getting better and pushing through things, and we're starting to get settled into camp.
With John Lands, is he another one of those guys you guys are just kind of being patient?
Yeah, I would imagine John will get released end of the week, fully released, and then again, we'll start to bring him back slowly after that. So, my guess is, Thursday, then we have another off day on Friday, so you'll start to see him a little bit more toward the end of the week.
Coach, there's been a lot of news about gambling in college sports. Iowa State and Iowa had players that were getting in trouble for it. What is your staff's approach when it comes to?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is just try to make sure that these guys understand what they can and can't do, and also understand, if they do it, they're going to get caught. I mean, these are, these betting sites and apps and that kind of stuff, and they're very sophisticated. People are going to know where you are when you're placing those bets, and so it's like anything else. Our players, we have to do a good job as a program educating those guys and make sure they understand if they can't do it, they can't gamble, and if they do, they're going to get caught. And so, like anything else, like all the things that we try to talk to them about, and educate them the best that we can, and now they've got to just understand, look, it's just one of those things they can't do. And so we've spent a lot of time talking to them about it. Really starting this past spring, it's when I started to hear things about some of the NFL players, and typically what happens in the NFL kind of trickles down to college, and you saw a lot of those NFL players that lost games or season, or games or a season because of gambling, and found out again how it happened about betting in the facility and that kind of stuff. And so you try to educate your players the best that you can. You try to make sure they understand there's no getting around it, and at that point they just have to understand that it's worth playing football for them not to gamble, and because you can't do both.
A lot of moving parts on that offensive line, some guys moving around. What's kind of your thoughts through the first week?
Yeah, I mean, there's been some good and some bad. I mean, when guys are playing different positions, it's like anything else. I mean, we say this all the time. I mean, we want to play our best September 2nd. We don't necessarily need to be our best on August 5th or 6th, and so it gives us a chance to experiment, move some people around, see what gives us the best starting 5, what gives us the best rotational 7 or 8. And my hope is we come out of camp with 10 or 11 that we feel good about. And then, and then all of a sudden now you got a group that can play together, and you can substitute 1 or 2 guys, bump somebody down from tackle to guard, whatever the case may be, and start to, have a group that you feel comfortable playing with. And it's a big deal when a guy can, get a series of rest on the sideline, and particularly when you're playing a day game in September, as hot as things are these days. And one series off the bench, or 4 or 5 plays of rest, or that kind of thing, makes a big difference. And so our goal is to, as I said, to get to 8, maybe even 10, and I think we've got enough guys that can do it. I mean, it's good to see, Tommy Brockermeyer start to get a little more settled in and start to make a move, and and guys like Marcus Williams and Mike Nichols and those guys. And we haven't had Lands, and Lands has been a guy who's played a lot of football for us. So when you're looking at all the guys, whether it's Deary or Patrick or which are new faces, it's good to see those guys come in. It's good to see them compete. They're still working their way into shape. Our goal over the summer was to get big and powerful and in pretty good shape, and that's kind of the last group to get into shape, are your offensive defensive line. So we're working our way into shape a little bit, and I feel good about where we're going to end up. And as you said, there's a lot of moving parts getting here, and there's always some moments, some cringeworthy moments when you have somebody playing a little bit different position than they're used to. But again, we're trying to see all the different options and how they're going to work and how guys play together and figure out who the best 5 are, and as I said, the best 7 and the best 8, and hopefully you can get to that point where you can play with 2 offensive lines in a game. That's a big deal.
Josh, I've been noticing Josh Foster's been running a lot with first team safeties. I guess what's the thinking around there with him?
Yeah, it's just it's just guys going out and performing. I think the biggest thing is Josh has had a really good camp so far. I mean, Nick's a guy that's played a lot of football and very, very experienced guy. Josh has played a lot of football as well, and there's going to be a competition in a bunch of spots, and so that's one of those spots that guys are going to be competing for. Just like Abe and Mark and all the guys will compete. And you start getting some of those young guys in the fold. It's pretty exciting. Chase Biddle's starting to make a move and starting to figure some things out. And Fontenot's been really good. And Johnson's been good. And so it's a good group of young players. And that's what you want. You want a guy to have to compete every day for his job and fight for his job. And we've got a lot of good safeties and guys that we're comfortable playing with. And you want to create that competition. And I think Bud's practiced well, and so just as a whole, feel really good about that group.
What were your thoughts on this latest round of realignment with the Pac-12 this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in kind of worrying and focusing on stuff that I have control over, and fortunately or unfortunately, I don't really have any control over conference expansion. And so, I was glad to see the Big 12 get stronger. I believe in our leadership in the league. I think the Big 12 is in the position it's in right now because of leadership. I really believe that. I think that's what things boil down to. If you have great leadership, you're going to have great success as an organization. If you have poor leadership, you're not going to have that kind of success. And so, I'm very optimistic about our commissioner. I think Brett Yormark is very smart. I think he understands media. I think he understands positioning. I think he's very strategic in the things that he does. I think the timing of things. I think he's aggressive. I think he understands the league. I don't think he's ever overplayed his hand or anything like that, and I think some other people have, and it's like anything else, the strong survive and move forward, and the others don't.
Yeah.
As far as realignment goes, look, I was in the Pac-12 7 years as a coach, 4 as a head coach and 3 as a coordinator at Arizona, and I had a lot of respect for the league. It's a good league. I think that football has to be important, and I think that's what's the kind of the stabilizing force right now in conferences is football, and it's investment in football and it's attention to football, and again, I think that's why the Big 12's in the position it's in.
You said you had high expectations for the defense this year at Big 12 Media Days. The first 5 practices, how have they performed?
Good. Yeah, I've been really pleased with our defense. I think we've got much more depth than we had last year. I mean, you look at us last year, it's pretty crazy. We made it through the season playing almost exclusively with two corners. We made it through the season pretty much exclusively playing 4 linebackers. And to play 15 games and to have that little depth in those key positions and to be able to win 13 of them, you know, was a testament to those players. You know, the good thing is now we've got a lot of depth, we've got length, particularly at corner and safety, got guys that can run. You know, we have a little bit of inexperience and some guys that are new faces to us, but some guys that have also played some football, whether it's at the junior college level, you know, or at another school. And so I like the group. I think they're competitive. I like the way they're coming together. You know, I think the biggest difference, honestly, right now is just our defensive front. We're bigger, we're deeper. I think we're more experienced. You know, some guys have made a big jump. I mean, Dom really had a great year last year. I think now Dom has taken that next step, as you would expect him to. I think Caleb Fox has done the same thing. You know, so I'm excited. I think those guys are going to have a chance to be a handful. It's good to see Rick DeBrayu, you know, as a transfer from East Carolina, he's starting to show up more and more. He's got a great motor. He's very explosive. He's powerful. I think he'll be a guy that can help us in the pass rush. It's good to get Sonny back. I think he's been a solid performer, and then you throw in those freshmen and some of those other players that have been in the program developing, Paul and Mike and those guys. And all of a sudden you look up and you've got a bunch of guys that you feel pretty good about. And, you know, a year ago at this time, you know, there was a lot of uncertainty in our defensive front. And now we're in that position where you look up and there's, you know, 300-pound guys, you know, playing across the board up front. And that's different, you know, particularly in early downs and, you know, trying to stop the run, you know, because I think when you look at the Big 12, I mean, it's a conference that's very varied in what they do, but you got to be able to stop the run. And, you know, when you're playing with 300-pound D linemen, it gives you a better chance to do it.
Coach, when you look at your running backs, you look at Trey and Amani, it doesn't really matter who's going to start, it looks like, because both of them are getting a lot of carries. Is that kind of way you guys are looking at it?
I'm a running back by committee guy. I mean, assuming that you have, you know, guys that are pretty similar. You know, what I like is, you know, Trey is a little bit more of a downhill physical runner. Amani's a powerful, faster, quicker guy. And so I like having different guys in the backfield that have different skill sets. I think it's different for defenses and the way they have to defend things. You know, so I think I like having diversity. It's a little bit like playing a little bit like a wide receiver right now. You know, I really like, you know, some of the diversity we have. You know, you look up there at X, and you got, you know, Jalen Robinson's got tremendous speed. He's not real big, and then you got Savion, who's a big, powerful guy, and it's two totally different body types that play in the same position and have a different strength, and different strengths and different skill sets, and you know, again, I think that puts a lot of pressure on defenses because those guys can do different things, and so I like having diversity, and you know, feel good about that running back position. You know, Trent Battle, I think, is a solid guy right now. You know, doing some good things, and you know, I really like what I've seen so far from Cam Cook. You know, his head's spinning a little bit. He's still learning what to do, but I've been pleased with what I've seen from him as well. So, you know, I think that there's a lot of depth at that spot. You know, some guys that still need to take advantage of these reps. I think Trey's still trying to catch up. He just hadn't played a lot of football. And I think, you know, again, our job is to make sure he's ready to play by September 2nd. And it's a good thing we're not playing today because I don't know that he's completely there yet, but I think he's going to get there.
When you think about Colorado, I know you guys want to start game planning later, but how do you prepare for a team that basically was going to have a break?
Yeah, it's hard to do. I mean, it's hard to do. You know, it's hard to do anyway with an opener and a new coaching staff, but then you have the kind of turnover that they've had in their program. It makes it really hard. I mean, you know, we played them last year and you think, well, there's going to be some carryover. Well, there's not any carryover, really. I mean, none. And so there'll be very few guys on this year's team that started on last year's team or played. So, completely different team. You know, it starts again with obviously looking at the schemes and what they do on offense, defense, and special teams, and then you say, okay, well, who's going to be the big players in those schemes? And obviously, it's going to be, you know, the quarterback, and you look at Shedeur and what he can do, and then you kind of start to put the pieces together. But it's a little bit more of a process than it normally is. You're not going to have a chance to really evaluate all of those starters. You know, we're doing a lot of advanced scouting just to try to get a look at guys' strengths and weaknesses from different schools and that kind of thing. But, you know, it's going to be tedious and in some ways impossible, and you just got to do the best you can to game plan for them, and then you're going to see some stuff you don't expect to see, and That's okay, they'll see some stuff from us that they don't expect to see. And that's part of game one, you know, and then the thing that I've always believed is, you know, game one, you're not really playing against an opponent as much as you're playing against yourselves. You know, the people that execute it the best, the people that play the hardest, the people that have the most depth, the people that are in the best shape, people that make the fewest mistakes, in particular, are the ones that win early in the season. And so, you know, game one's going to be about eliminating mistakes and taking care of the ball and executing and playing tough and playing physical, and that's what it's going to be about, as much as it's going to be about, you know, playing against somebody.